Hey guys, welcome back to According To. I'm Megan.
And I'm Ciera. For this week's episode, Megan and I thought it would be fun to do another rabbit hole episode. So we are going to be doing, I think just going to conversationstarters.com or whatever that website is, generating a topic to talk about and then
see what happens.
Beating it to death. And then if we run out, we can always just start another conversation. But
also, since it's getting towards the end of the year and Spotify Wrapped just came out, thank you so much for everyone who's been a listener throughout this year. It's been fun. You guys have been sending us our podcast and like your top podcast stuff.
Yeah,
so we really appreciate that. If you know other friends or family that you think might enjoy listening to the podcast, then feel free to
send them your favorite episode.
Yeah.
And then hopefully if that doesn't hook them, then, you know, we lost them and it's fine. But
hopefully you give it your best shot.
It'll pull them in. Anyways, we can do our little catch up and stuff and our weekly spotlights and stuff before we get started. So catch up, weekly spotlight. What do you think?
I'll start with my weekly spotlight. I finally, this past Saturday, so yesterday, I finished up my final makeup day, which was very good to just finally like have that all done and finished up. And we're going into our last week of clinicals next week. So it's crazy because, I mean, we've had other clinicals throughout our schooling, but these last ones, it's been, 3 9-week ones. So like that's 27 weeks. We finished 26 of the weeks.
Crazy.
And so one more to go. I'm excited. I am ready to have just like that time off, and I'm ready to kind of be back and celebrate with graduation and whatnot, and then still have.
And then we got to hit the books again, get back into study mode, which has been, I've fallen off a little bit, which, hold on, that leads me into my weekly spotlight, is that I've submitted my written case report, which is huge. So you guys have heard us talking about our case reports. Have we told them what ours is each about, if you guys care?
So, and I submitted mine too, so like, and honestly, like this last week, it's mostly been done. So I felt just like so much relief from getting things figured out, because when I was working on it earlier, there was a point where I kind of had to like rewrite part of my paper because like it really wasn't the best. So when I was still in that mode of the paper, I was like, I really don't feel very great about this. But then once I did that and kind of like really wrapped things up, got my figures put in, finally, like I kept pushing that off so much. I was like, what am I even doing for my tables and figures?
Well, I literally had to get hold of Megan and be like, I don't even know what to put in my paper for tables and stuff. So Megan really helped me out with that.
I found a paper. I honestly just searched like PEDS physical therapy case report, and someone's thing popped up, and Ciera thought it was kind of helpful. So.
Pediatrics is like such a different thing than every other physical therapy setting. So it's like, not really, but I'm like, PEDS is like all vibes. And so how do you get objective data from all that stuff? So Megan helped me out with that.
So we can share what our case reports are about. Also, I'm not a research person. Like, I do not like doing research. And so doing these case reports and then having to try and like go dig through literature and research and then like analyze whatever we were looking at was not my favorite thing, nor do I necessarily think I'm amazing at it. But I ended up kind of being like, not too shabby, at least. It'll get me to pass the class, hopefully, which essentially this class is just like a pass-fail. You just need to get like a 70% on the entire project, which everyone should be able to do that. So what was yours on?
So mine is related to, during my pediatric rotation, I was working with this patient who had just had a single event multi-level surgery, which is a pretty common surgery for people who have cerebral palsy, to just address multiple orthopedic concerns in one surgery to then decrease overall rehabilitation time instead of doing multiple surgeries. And so originally I didn't think that there was any clinical practice guidelines related to that recovery. So I was going to take an angle about like trying to make, some proposed like initial clinical practice guideline recommendations. Come to find out, there is clinical practice guidelines that exist, but they're very limited in what they recommend and don't have like a ton of strong evidence. So then I kind of tweaked it so it's a personalized rehab program based on those guidelines, and then also saying like how the guidelines could be improved based off of what we learned.
I did my case report on, I think that honestly during my acute care I probably could have found like something a little more interesting.
I would have loved to do something during my rotation.
Since this was my last one, like I had 2 outpatient experiences before this, and that was kind of like, just given the time it takes to like put a whole thing together, I needed to have something picked out, like during our last clinical. And so none of the ortho cases were really like super interesting or unique, and like not that they have to be. You can pick something and then just find a way to analyze it, but I was really having a hard time figuring out what a good case would be. And then especially like at the VA, when I was like, things could be interesting here, but you really don't see those patients as often as you do other patients. So then I felt like I never was really like
Following up.
like fully seeing the case through. So then I ended up picking a person who came in for chronic abdominal pain, and I did their eval and kind of like led their treatment throughout. And I thought it would be interesting just because that's not a very common physical therapy diagnosis. And so I approached it, especially being like a brand new student, and like before the person came in, I had like no idea what the background was or like how long this had been going on for. So I'm like thinking back to our differential diagnostics class.
You're like, oh no.
Thinking of like, oh my God, what like tests did we learn that were like not necessarily physical therapy tests, but tests that you can still use a little bit. And so I decided to focus on that case and then lean into focusing on the diagnostic aspect and kind of reviewing tests that we've talked about in class. Their like diagnostic value in terms of like how well they work in terms of letting you know if you can rule something in or out. And then also I kind of like dug into other literature on like other things that could be useful for clinicians to use in terms of making sure a patient is still appropriate for physical therapy. So yeah, and I was freaking out at first because like I knew I wanted to approach it from like a diagnostic standpoint, because like this patient didn't necessarily make like a whole lot of improvement from the time that I started working with him to like when I left my clinical. He had improved some, but this was like a 25-year problem that he'd been dealing with that like gets worse, gets better. And so, you know, I didn't want to focus on like an intervention standpoint because I don't really know how I'm treating this guy. I don't know. So I approached it more from a diagnostic standpoint.
And then Megan and I each kind of did one last look at each other's, which honestly was good because you kind of found quite a few, like at least editing stuff where like I was like, I'm ready to listen, but then having you go through and like make those small edits, I was like, okay, that's actually like good that you went through and saw that stuff. So I was just glad that you didn't have me like, what I love is going through
and
when
like,
someone looks and it's like an edit more than a revise.
I hardly even read I'll change it. Sure.
Yeah. But like if it's someone like revision advice, I'm like, oh God, you want to make me think right now?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that was what happened after like our peer review. I needed to, like, after I got my peer review feedback,
and I was accepting a revision at that time.
I already knew that like I needed to go back and like fix my discussion section because like I needed to focus on other things. And so then like finally seeing that with like feedback from a peer, I was like, okay, I guess I shall just do that.
Crack my fingers and get to work.
It's easier on the other side.
Yeah. So definitely huge relief now that that's turned in. The only other thing we have to do related to our case reports is put together a small 10 to 15 minute presentation, just using obviously the same information we already put into those written case reports. So that'll be my plan over the next week to kind of try and get that done, which hopefully should not take that long because logically I've already done all of the dirty work of putting it together. So I'll just have to put a presentation together and then practice at some point over the next weekend probably.
Yeah. My hope is like just kind of timeline of like getting things done that need to get done before graduation is like I might start my presentation today, but then hopefully get it mostly put together by middle of the week, and then I should do a little bit more studying, or at least like overview of key points that I need to make sure I've reviewed before taking the PEAT, because before we go back for graduation we need to have taken the PEAT, which is basically a previous licensing exam that our school needs us to take before we go back so they can kind of see what it's looking like and if we might pass so that they can like approve us to take the actual test. And I've heard, because we've taken 2 practice tests already, and I've heard a couple people say that the PEAT, for whatever reason, tends to be easier. Maybe it's because the programs just want to say, okay, you can take the test, but
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll plan on taking that next Saturday, I think is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
And then I've got that weekend to kind of practice my presentation, and then off we go to Iowa City.
And my presentation, the schedule is out for our presentation order for our class. I'm the second to last person presenting. which is not what I was hoping for. I was hoping to be not like super early, but like just early to middle of the pack kind of thing, and I'm not.
I'm kind of right in the middle, which I honestly didn't really want to go on the first day back just because I was like, I'd rather just be a little more relaxed and not have to be like game day ready to go on.
Those people are going to be
Tuesday.
so relieved though, like when
I know.
day one is over, they're like, I'm just rolling now. So, whatever. It is what it is. Anything else as far as updates? Today is my last drive to Cedar Rapids.
Oh, yeah.
And then next Friday when I come back, I come back and then I go
And then
back
we still
to Iowa
have to
City
go back
the next
to
week,
Iowa City.
which is like basically the same
You
drive.
get like a long-ish weekend, though.
Yeah. But you'll be with me, so that'll be more fun.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be fun to be like back in Iowa City for a week.
I think it will be, it'll be
With our
nice
class.
just to kind of have like that final wrap-up, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because like I guess I was going to say the class before us, but no, they had a normal graduation. The two classes above us, like they didn't even get a graduation, which would suck.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also trying to figure out like what I'm wearing for my graduation dress. I ordered one, and I wasn't sure how I was going to like it, but it arrived 2 days ago, and it's just not going to work. So then I already returned that, which I must say, have you ever used Happy Returns?
No, but I've seen you use
Like,
them.
That's the only way I'm returning clothes now. I mean, not everyone uses it, but like it's where if they work with Happy Returns, then there's like certain drop-off locations that accept things back, and all you have to do is like bring the item, no packaging necessary, and then they'll email you a barcode, and you just take your item, and the place will scan the barcode, and then they do everything else. So,
I mean, sounds great. I ordered 2 dresses. They're essentially like the same dress, but they're supposed to be coming at the end of this week. So hopefully one of them works and fits.
or
So
what
I'll
was
have to
insane,
find something else.
I was also me and Ciera went to the mall yesterday, and we were just kind of browsing around. We have a department specific ceremony Thursday, like the week that we go back, and it's not graduation, like actual graduation, but it's just, we still, I'm guessing, need to, dress somewhat nice. And so I was like, I have no idea what I'm wearing for that. So I was kind of like, maybe if I could find like a sweater dress or something, then I feel like that would be appropriate to wear for that. And I swear in the entire mall, like 5 sweater dresses, and they were all ugly. So then I was like, are sweater dresses out? No one wears them anymore? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't even decided what I'm going to wear for that either. So TBD for that one.
Yeah. We also, this is like somewhat exciting, but so we're going to Maui end of January, early February, right after we take boards, and planning has kind of been on the back burner. I've had ideas of things to do, but like have really not done a lot of specific stuff for the trip, which honestly last time I went to Hawaii, we literally planned it a month in advance, so not bad. But we finally got a place booked that we're staying, so that was a big thing. We have a car now, which we waited so long last time to like decide to get a car.
Yeah.
But we got a car now. Obviously we have our tickets and we have a place to stay, so everything else will get done, but having the main stuff booked really provided me some relief. So
For sure.
yeah.
Anything else that we need to talk about?
Ciera's been obsessed with
For one day.
Contexto.
I learned about it yesterday.
Did you learn about it on TikTok or?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Contexto, that's how I say it. It's basically like one of those Wordle, knockoff
Like
type
a
of things.
Puzzle.
But you just guess any word ever, doesn't matter how long it is, and then whatever word you enter in will give you like how close it is to the actual word. I'm still in the middle of doing today's.
It's kind of hard.
But yeah, it is hard.
Like it'll tell you like warm or cold, and I swear like yesterday I was doing it and I guessed like something that was like so far green, it was like so close it was almost the word, and then I guessed something that was like really fairly similar
was, like,
to that
red.
word, and it was like all the way on the other side.
Yeah.
Not close at all. And I was like, what?
Yeah, it's tricky. There's something called phrasal, which is essentially Wordle but with a whole phrase. So I learned about that yesterday. That one was kind of fun.
Okay, so this conversation starter, do you have it pulled up already?
No, but I can get it pulled up.
Ciera,
I can leave contexto.
found this, or she was inspired by it from Rhett and Link. They do ear biscuits, and I guess that they used this in a recent episode or something.
I don't know how recent it was. I kind of just like was scrolling. Well, now it's not loading. Maybe it wasn't conversationstarter.com, but I'll just search conversation starters. That says Conversations Iowa State, which I don't even know what that is.
We've also slowly been decorating our house for Christmas, and yesterday Ciera and I did a video we recorded for Megan and Ciera where we, it'll already be up by the time this podcast is up, but we did that trend where on BookTube people are like wrapping books that they have not read and then like doing random number generators and then using that to pick their TBR. And we did the whole thing where we went and got the brown wrapping paper, taped up all the books. We literally had like 16 books that we wrapped up. And when we first started doing it, I was kind of like, oh my God, this was a mistake. Like, this is going to take so long to do. But we kind of got in a groove, and then we were doing better with the wrapping the more that we did. And, you know, at the end of the day, the wrapping really wasn't necessary, but it kind of helps make the video a little bit more exciting. But yeah, so now I have an updated TBR, and I'm currently reading In 5 Years. And then my next book is going to be The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, which is one that I tried to read and then kind of took a step back from. So I'm going to try and jump back into it. And then I've got 3 other books that I picked. One was The Guest List. One was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. And then one is Room, which is now a movie. Maybe I'll watch the movie after I finish reading it.
Okay, so I found Random Topic Generator and Conversation Starters. This is from capitalizemytitle.com, which I honestly, like, they were at the same website too, I think. And they thought Capitalize My Title was, like, such a dumb thing. I've used it before. Like, because you know how when you capitalize a title, not every word is capitalized. Some people are stupid and think you're supposed to capitalize every single word in a title. You're not. And I can usually tell which ones, like, do and don't get capitalized. But, like, the word, like, with. I'm like, does with get capitalized? And it doesn't. But I've used it, like, for YouTube titles and stuff. If I don't want to, like, think about it, I just, like, plug it in to capitalize my title. And then it capitalizes my title appropriately. But they were thinking it was, like, oh, do people, like, plug it in if they've written everything in, like, lowercase for some reason? And then it'll capitalize it. I'm like, no, it's for people who don't know what words to capitalize or not. So I was offended that they were like, this is the stupidest thing ever. I was like, I use this. But whatever. Okay, that being said, the first random topic is, what's your favorite game to play?
We were just talking about games, kind of. The first thing that comes to mind is, like, board games. So... or actually no, not even board games, but unlock games.
I was like,
exit
Megan.
games.
That's like the only games we play.
Yeah. Or escape rooms. Does that count as a game?
I feel like no.
Our mom is in Cincinnati right now. Our mom and grandma and then our uncle went to go visit Maggie, and I'm jealous that they're there and I'm not. But anyways, Maggie is like really close to an escape room place there. And it was
such a good
escape room game. It's a franchise. It's called the Escape Game, and they have some good ones.
Yeah,
we literally
did it well.
We did 2
in one
within
weekend.
The time that we were there visiting Maggie, and it was very fun. They're very well done, and still I feel like for the most part makes sense.
Like when you leave an escape room, here's my criteria for what I look for in a good escape room. And we will jump back to the games we were talking about before, but escape rooms are like our bread and butter. When you want to evaluate an escape room when you're done, you want to finish it being like, was that fair? Like, if it's not fair, it's the most annoying thing ever, because you want to be able to, like, have it challenge you where you feel smart when you figure it out. But if you get to something and you require so many hints, or they're like, this is what should have happened, you're like, that was stupid. I would have never gotten that.
A prime example of an escape room we've done where I was like, this is not fair. And as we were doing it, I was like, this is not fair. We were doing an escape room where there was like a chain link fence in the room, and then there was red solo cups, like a lot of them. And there was supposed to be some sort of pattern where you're putting the red solo cups within
Like it was
the
like
holes.
down the side were letters or something, and then across the top were numbers, and then the cups would have like a letter number combination, which to tell you where you're supposed to put the cup in the fence.
Now, great in theory, however, in practice, you're putting these in and then they're popping right back out. And then you put them in somewhere else and then other ones are popping out. Like they don't stay in place. And so I was just like,
It was so frustrating.
I was like, I cannot do this anymore.
Because we were doing the proper thing that we were supposed to be doing, like asking for a hint wouldn't have helped unless we were like, just tell us what it's supposed to say on the fence. But like they couldn't have given us any hint because we were doing it. But it was just so frustrating because like I just remember like verbalizing like, this is so annoying, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I hope they can hear me just like being how annoyed I am at this. So that was like just a category where I'd say this is not a fair escape room because like I'm doing the proper thing, but this requires like
it's not
too
working.
much skill or something. I don't know. So anyway, is it fair? Is the room itself like layout wise, just prop wise, like design wise, is it fun? Is it like, does it submit to the experience of like, oh, like you're in a secret spaceship or like you're in this log cabin? Like how well done is the room contributes to how good the room is.
And then almost always now, I expect there to be another hidden room or two, because at that point, like that's just where we're at for escape rooms.
Yeah,
if you don't have
it's the
that,
standard.
then I feel like it's kind of a letdown. And when I first started, like that was definitely not
It wasn't the norm.
a thing, but yeah, I kind of expect it now. And the ones in Cincinnati, like they had like a literal
Rooms
slide.
upon rooms.
Like I was just like, this is so fun. So I would highly recommend the escape game. I'm a big fan.
Any other like big criteria for like when you finish an escape room if you're like, yeah, that was good or that was bad?
I feel like you covered the main ones. My biggest one is like, I guess I don't know if this matches what you were just saying, but like the riddles need to kind of like make sense.
You need to be able to tell like what goes with what, or like what's gonna like connect to something, or like there has to be a link, not just like
sometimes I
oh we
feel
need like a random number. Is it this one that we found? Is it this one that we
Right.
found?
Or sometimes I feel like you need to kind of be able to go through like a sequence when you're doing an escape room of like this is the logical next step. But sometimes I feel like you finish one clue and they're kind of like, so we did that and now we have like literally nothing else. So what do we do
go?
next?
Yeah. Okay. Back to like the other rooms then. Obviously our love for escape rooms led
Other
it to
games.
us. What?
You just said other rooms.
Our love for escape rooms led us to trying to like recreate escape rooms just like at home and stuff. And there's so many games that are good for this now, but I feel like at first it's kind of hard to like get that same environment. So our personal favorites are exit games and unlock games. And they're similar to escape rooms in the sense that you have to like put things together and try things out and like see if they'll like work to like to solve a code or something and give you like your next clue, which is similar to what you do in an escape room. And so unlock is but like basically a bunch of like cards and stuff. It's like a big card game where you can add things together if you want to like try them out. So a blue and a red card can get added together and you draw the sum of those numbers, and like if the card is right or if you did the right thing, you'll like see, oh, you can get rid of those cards, and then if it's wrong, you'll be like, oh, you have a penalty. And so there's usually like some backstory of like what you're trying to do. That's similar to an escape room where like you have this objective that you're trying to find something or get somewhere, like do something. And so those ones are a lot of fun, pretty user friendly, I think, and for the most part, pretty fair. Then we have exit games, which are not just like, not really card games per se. There's usually like a few more props and stuff. You might have this like, giant decoder disc.
Yeah, you might have to have like some scissors or something to like, this is a game. Both of these are really games you play like once and that's it. But like for exit games, like, I mean, sometimes you're using the box of the game as like a piece of the puzzle, or like destroying the box, or
yeah, like nothing is off limits with exit games. The decoder disc, I feel like originally was confusing, but like once you play it once, you get it down to like, usually for that one, there are different shapes that you're trying to solve codes for each shape. And you can like move the disc, like there's 3 rings within the disc that you can like turn, and it's usually like numbers or...
and then it like reveals a number and then
draw that
you're like
card.
drawing that card to see if that solved that riddle clue thing.
And I think initially when Megan and I tried Exit, we were like, we don't like this. This is weird. Yeah. But then we tried more out, and I've grown to enjoy them. And so I think that Unlock still has a special place in my heart, but I enjoy both, and we do both regularly. Exit is a lot easier to come by. Unlock has takes forever.
Our mom signs up for their
newsletters or whatever.
Not newsletters, but when she hears that another one's coming out, and it's be notified when a new box comes out, then she is on it.
Mm-hmm. Do we still have one that we should play, or have we played all of them that Mom has?
We may have. Well, now I'm getting kind of confused. Maybe we did finish them. I'm not sure.
We have usually one box comes with 3 games. We maybe did do all of them. We got one fairly recently. I know we for sure done 2 of them. But now I don't know. We'll have to talk to our mom about that. So yeah, those are our games we play. I'm not a big board game person per se.
I used to like cards a lot, but I really don't play a lot of cards either now. So
do you remember? I don't even remember how to play Trouble, but at Dad's house when we were younger, we'd all play Trouble. How does that game even work now? I don't even know.
You slam the one thing and the dice rolls.
All right, let's generate another topic. What was your favorite book as a child?
The first one that just came to my mind, even though I would consider probably realistically The Hunger Games, but I can shout out some honorable mentions of ones that stand out to me. My favorite author used to be Sharon Creech. I really don't remember the plot of any of her books at this point, but I know that there was one book called Walk Two Moons. There was another book called Chasing Redbird, and I really have no thoughts on those books anymore.
I just know I loved them.
And then the Penderwicks was
another book that which I'm I don't even remember what it was about. I know it was this, family of 4 kids or something, but I'm just what would have been so good that middle school Ciera ate it up. I don't know.
Or I remember the Willoughbys. I just thought of that book, and then they made that into that cartoon show where I was why is this a cartoon? Those are ones that are popping in my brain where I'm whoa, I remember that.
Distinct
Ciera
memories.
just brought one up yesterday. What was the dog one?
Oh, I don't remember what the dog one was called, but it was this yellow cover with this black and white dog going up on its hind legs. So it's How to Steal a Dog or something? How to Steal Your Dog?
This is a side note, but I can go off right now. So we were planning on going to lunch with our dad today, but we had no specific plans other than okay, let's maybe try and do lunch today. So I look at my phone and we just get a text. I don't want to bash a specific place per se, because that's not what I'm here to do, but it is this place that our dad was really excited about, when he first took us a couple months ago, and I had never heard of it before, so I was sure, we can try doing that.
And it's a deli. Lunch. So initially my thoughts are I'm not a deli person. Yeah. So I was to me, when I go for lunch, I don't want just a cold sandwich. That's just me personally.
And so we go to this place, and to me, it was just if you're going for if you're going to have a picnic, this was all
you'd pick up the food here and take it on a picnic.
Basically, they made a sandwich for me, and then I grabbed a bag of chips, and I don't even know what else they had, but I was just this doesn't really. And then you're carrying it on a tray. It was just giving me...
why am I in a cafeteria?
Yeah. I was this really isn't doing it for me personally. And it was kind of expensive for what it was. So then I felt we left, and I was sharing those same thoughts and feelings with my dad in terms of just being I don't know.
Not for me again.
That I would go again. And then I swear since then he has still multiple times.
And I'm
should
no.
we go to? I was about to say the place, but I'm not trying to bash someone's company here. But he was just should we meet at said place for lunch? And I'm just
absolutely
how
not.
many times must I say we are not going there? At least not with me. I do not get it. It's a busy place though.
I Haley shouting out a place by her house so she doesn't have to drive.
Hey, let's shout out a place near us.
Anyways, we'll figure that out when we're done podcasting. But yeah, that was just funny that we got that text and we were like, absolutely not.
Mm-mm. If there's one thing about my dad, he can call and just talk about nothing for
Sometimes I'll
extended periods of
hang
time.
up, like when we're done talking, and I'm like, why did he call in the first place?
Like
Nothing was
I
just
was
talked
working
about.
yesterday on Saturday, and I was just looking for like I wanted something fun to do to look forward to after I got off work, and since it's like the weekend essentially, and a lot of times like we have been hanging out with like our grandma and mom on the weekend, but they are obviously out of town, and so I was like, what can we do? And then I was jealous of them doing an escape room, so I was like, we've been meaning to try one with our dad just because
Like
he's never done one
doing
before.
escape rooms is like usually like an us and our mom thing. Haley's always invited, but Haley doesn't like escape rooms. So we're raving about, escape rooms to our dad, and he was like, it'd be fun to like try one. So we were like, oh, like we can show you the ropes. Like we're experts.
So then I was kind of like, well, this would be like the perfect weekend to try doing that. So I was like, Ciera, see if dad's doing something or not. And I guess you already knew he had like a Christmas party or something he was going to that apparently I knew about too, but I did not know that. And so I was like, bummer. And then I was like, well, maybe it's not until like, maybe it doesn't go like super late. And then escape rooms are usually open pretty late. So I was like, just ask him like when he's done. And then I didn't know if Ciera like had texted him or not. And so when it was around lunch and I was like going to get stuff from the cafeteria at the hospital, I texted him separately just to say like, when's your Christmas party over? And then he called back like right away because he likes to call instead of text. And so I answer the phone and he's kind of like, yeah, it's like not done until like 11 o'clock at night. So like that's super late.
So mine's like, okay, ready to hang up.
I'm like literally like waiting to go into the cafeteria to like buy my lunch. And then he's just like, I don't even know what he talked about like for the next 10 minutes. But I know he talked about we have a cousin's wedding next summer in Wisconsin. He's talking about like the Airbnb situation with that. And I was just like, do we have to talk about this now? And then he was talking about something else. And then he's finally like, we should do lunch tomorrow. And I was like,
Okay. I'm trying to get my lunch right now, so I gotta go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was another side note. I'm trying to think of like other favorite books that I had that I can contribute, because Penderwicks, I said that weird. The Penderwicks was for sure one that I read and thoroughly enjoyed. Hunger Games, obviously. I was like big into, like those trilogy,
Matched.
like, yeah, so I was just gonna bring that up because we just were at Barnes and Noble, and I was like, hey, I read that. It was like that time period when we were in middle school when
was
all those dystopian trilogies were coming out, and so it's like I read the Divergent. I don't know if I read the entire trilogy. I for sure read the first two. Same with the Matched trilogy. I read at least the first two. I don't know if I read the last one. Hunger Games, I read all three of those. But yeah, that was just like what an era where like they're doing all these dystopian books and movie releases.
Mm-hmm. You know what else Ciera and I have failed to understand?
What?
Avatar.
Oh yeah.
So it's already out now, isn't it? The second one?
I don't know.
Avatar, The Way of Water, the second movie, is either out or it's close to being out. And when I tell you, I do not understand the hype about these movies. Yet, like, the first one is the grossest selling movie of all time, right? Or, like...
That's another thing we can talk about, is how I didn't know what grossest meant for the longest time. Like, when the Book of World Records came out.
Highest grossing. You're like, what
It's
does
like
that mean?
Titanic was, that had that record at some point. And I was like, it's not that gross. Like, that was, like, what my brain was thinking. I was just like, I don't get it. How do you even judge that?
Here's what I don't understand. And if someone understands more than I do, then I welcome the critique or education. But in my mind, Avatar is like CGI. Animation is probably not like the word I would use, but I also kind of like don't know what separates animation from other CGI. And everyone always talks about how this movie, especially like when it was first released,
it took 10 years to make it.
Like it was the first movie of its kind to have like that kind of technology, and I just like don't really understand what that means,
Because
there's lots of movies where they CGI stuff in.
I sent this to Megan because I saw
CGI
this
stuff
TikTok
out.
of Tom Hanks like in this like, you know, weird CGI suit for Polar Express. I sent this to Megan. I said, what is the difference between this and Avatar?
Well, then I said to you, I don't think they'd do that in Avatar. But let's not act like, I mean, Mr. Incredible or like The Incredibles. They don't do that in The Incredibles either. That's an animated movie.
Exactly.
I just am like, is animation and CGI different? And not to say that it's not like amazingly
impressive.
well done
But
CGI.
what is so different about it versus every other movie ever that is like within that same realm or look? I don't know. And like I've seen people be like, they had to create this whole world, and I'm like, a lot of movies had to create like their own worlds. Like, what about it?
Like Inside Out, hello? That was not a real life thing.
Like I don't get it. And I've tried, like, we were talking, when we had this whole conversation about movies on Thanksgiving that I think we talked to you guys about a little bit. Ashton was, like, trying to say, like, I mean, first of all, he said, like, the movie itself was so good. I've never seen the movie, and I have this aversion to seeing it. So I don't know if the movie's good or not, but I don't like how they look. So I'm just like, ew, I don't want to see it.
The thing that always weirded me out when it first came out was, like,
The Last
I swear
Airbender?
the Avatar movie
This
and The Last
confused
Airbender
me so much.
were coming out at the exact same time. And in my mind, Avatar is The Last Airbender.
Yeah,
And,
because, like,
so why were they making both those movies at the same time?
that
and why
confused me
was
for the longest
Avatar-
time.
I was just like, people would talk about Avatar, and I thought they were talking about, like, The Last Airbender. But they were talking about Avatar, the other one. And did you know, I also found out that there's a third Avatar already ready or being made for 2024. So
I didn't know that. When did the first one
someone
come out?
said, this is probably a lie, but I saw on TikTok that someone was saying this movie needs to make like $2 billion to break even. But that can't be real.
That's crazy if true. James Cameron directs them, right?
Yes.
So he had Titanic and he's got Avatar. He'd be holding on to that highest grossest movie title.
I hear lots of good things about the movies, but I never hear one person going like insane or crazy about that one movie. Like Harry Potter fans, like, you know, like there are Harry Potter fans and they just exist. But Avatar, like, you don't, where are those people at?
I don't even know what Avatar is about. Isn't that saying something after like it's been out this long and no one has told me what it's about?
I think it's about like,
You said you've watched it and you don't even know what it's about.
I swear that in my high school biology class, for some reason, my teacher was able to justify us watching Avatar. But I don't really remember what it was about.
So it couldn't have been that good.
So, yeah.
Anyway, we just got into movies and we were supposed to be talking about books. That's okay. I will find another topic for us to talk about. What was the best invention of the last 50 years? I mean, it's got to be the internet, right?
You know what confuses me?
How you make internet?
Yes. Or just like, how did we go from, like, computers were around, obviously, but they just had, like, their own software and processing stuff. Like, how do you even make the internet with, like, no websites? Or, I don't know.
I mean, I don't really know either. I was always confused about what the original purpose of a computer was, like personal computers, I guess. Because I remember, like, mom would say, like, oh, like, you'd have, like, your word processing. And I swear that was, like, the only thing you could do was, like, just type on Word.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm just, like, misspeaking, but I swear that's what, oh, you just type on it. And that was it. So I'm like,
And, then imagine it's, like, the internet becomes a thing. You're just, like, I just am, like, who thought of the internet? Who was like, we need a place where something else is on there.
and then, like, how do you think of it? How do you then go about creating that? And like you said, what is the first iteration of the internet? Is there a website? If so, what is that website? And what do you do there?
Let me look up the first website. I think it'd have to be like, I mean, it can't be Google because, like, nothing else is on there. It has to be, like, just, I don't know.
And this is, like, obviously, the internet's not that old. So I'm just, like, the fact that, you know, our parents, grandparents, everyone else, you know, in the world that was around with the creation of the internet, I'm like, isn't that like the craziest thing ever that like you're just around for that? And, like, little did you know how, like, it's such a gradual process. I feel like that it's, you know, day by day, not that big of a deal, but like them existing now versus like looking back to before the internet, I feel like they would just be like, whoa, that's crazy that like we lived without the internet.
This says the first web page went live on August 6, 1991. It was dedicated to information on the World Wide Web project and was made by Tim Berners-Lee. It ran on a Next computer at the European Organization for Nuclear Research.
So it's just a
So they
website
kind of,
about
like-
the project.
Yes.
They're like, this is what we're trying to do. Interesting.
Huh. Maybe email was like one of the first things.
Maybe.
What's
I remember
funny? Our mom's email. This is how you know she was like, she made it when the internet was like first a thing. I mean,
not really like first a thing.
Yeah,
I was born.
But our mom's email, like, you know how everyone uses like
Their name.
a variation of their name for their email.
Unless, I mean, technically a lot of people are like, oh, like my first email is like blah, 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 like 27, like, you know, Pink Panda 27. I don't know.
But our mom, when she made hers, she was like under the impression it needed to be something that was like
Hard to guess.
or
Which the nature of an email, it's not supposed to be hard to guess. It's for communication.
so people are gonna know it.
Yeah.
Anyways, she used Ciera's name and then like a zip code, and it was like, why? So that is still her primary email.
Yeah.
And it just makes me laugh because Ciera's name is in it and it is not her email.
Well, it's always funny. I remember I was telling someone like my mom's email for something, and I don't remember why, but they were like, that's your name. And I was like, yeah, that's my mom's email.
Yep,
like
you
they
got
thought
it
that I was
right.
giving them my email, and I was like, no, this is not my email. It's my
I mean,
mom's.
I've never had anyone else. It's just unique, but
She picked me because my name is like the hardest to like spell out of all of the siblings. So I'm honored, of course. But yeah. I don't even know what that topic was. I was like, what was the best invention of the last 50 years? Internet. Do you have any pets?
I wish.
Well, we do have, it's hard. It's weird now because now people ask if we have any pets. I'm like, oh, I have like 2 to 3 at my mom's house. But like really the third one isn't my pet per se because my mom just got that dog this year. And so like it's not really my dog. But the first 2 I do count as like my dogs. So like 2, I guess. Like, have you noticed that it's like weird to say?
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't see him as much anymore.
I know. Anyway, so do we have pets within our home? No. But I still usually say like, oh, I have pets at home. And people usually understand, like, everyone gets
Yeah.
what that means. That you have like a dog that you grew up with that's still with your parents. And so you still consider them your dog. But yeah, I've been like 2, 3-ish, but like the third one's not really mine. I just was talking to Megan about today. It's very cold out. I saw someone walking their dog, and I was like, it's days like today where when I get a dog, and if I'm a good dog owner and I should be walking them every day, I'm going to be like, oof, it's going to be a quick one today. Maybe I'll just like be like, you go run out in the backyard. I'll like set up a little toy that will like throw the ball or something.
Maybe come February or March.
It really is hard for me to judge when I'm going to get one just because I feel like I should wait until I get a job so I know my schedule. And then, like, I feel like once I get a job, I'm going to be like, okay, like, when do I get a dog? How do I get a dog? Do I have to take time off to, like, then spend some time with it? Like, I don't know how it's going to work. So, TBD.
Especially, like, with everyone was getting dogs during, like, the pandemic, and no one was, like, having to leave their house. So, like, they were with their dog because...
Well, because my initial thought was like, oh, like I've had dogs my entire life, or like Haley and Ashton, they have dogs. So I'm like, how do they do it? And like that can be a framework for how I do it. But then I think back to, okay, our very first dog that we had at our mom's house, her name was Hannah. And like she was a small dog, so she didn't have to be like exercised and stuff as much. So like she was just like left at home during the day and like she was fine and stuff. But like I was too young to remember her puppy phase. Like I don't know how they trained her and all that stuff. So then we cut to when we get like my first memory of having a puppy was our dog Trice, but our stepdad worked from home. So there's
already.
always someone home the entire time like since getting Trice and like every other dog we've had since Trice, someone has been home to like be there with the dog if needed. So I'm like, that doesn't really help me out. And then I'm like, okay, well, Haley and Ashton got dogs. Like, what do they do? And I'm like, they got them during the pandemic and they were both working at home. So,
And they still both work from home.
so I'm like, that doesn't help me out, does it?
But people have had dogs before.
I know. I'm just trying to figure out how to then make it work. Like, I'm just trying to figure out logistics wise if I need to like do like the WAG app or whatever, like, you know, to have someone like come and like take them on a walk midday or like let them out midday or like find a family member who can do that. I don't know.
I will help problem solve with Ciera though, because I also want a dog.
Yeah.
What if you pick a name I don't like?
I won't pick a name that you don't like. I don't even have any names like thought of. Megan has a whole list in her phone of dog names. But it'll be a good one whenever I stumble upon the type of dog that I want to get. That will help inform the names that I can then pick from. I am guessing it will be a lab of some sort to determine if it will be black or yellow. I'm guessing between like chocolate labs just don't speak to me as much, despite what my Pinterest shows. It shows a lot of chocolate labs on there for some reason. I feel like I'll get a black or yellow lab. So,
Which I'd be more than happy with.
yeah.
And then we're gonna kennel train it.
And then that's the other thing is that I have to like, before I get a dog, I've told myself I need to like look up like, you know, best stuff for like how to train a dog, how to like kennel train it. I need to just like get my bearings with like what to do when you have a dog.
Like, we need to have everything here so that we bring the dog home and it's like, okay, we're ready for you.
Yeah. So hopefully
Or,
some
like,
point next
like,
year.
I've thought a couple times of like in our house, I'm like, where do we put the kennel? Like, could go in here, maybe. Like, I don't know.
Or like right now, depending like what we put in our living room, because we still want like one other seating area would be nice in our living room, just because when we have like 3 people over, it's fine. 4 people, it's like there's not like enough space for everyone to sit in the living room. But like right now, where our tree is at in our living room, could be a good spot for a kennel. But then it's like if we get other furniture, how would that work?
And eventually, ideally, I'm imagining like when it's a puppy, like is getting kennel trained or crate trained, and it is like staying in the crate most of the day if someone's not here. But usually, eventually, our dogs get to a point where like I feel like we'd be comfortable leaving it out in the house.
It's just like for training purposes, you want to like set the standard, and then as they age and like, you know, have better behaviors and stuff, that's when you give them a little bit more freedom. Because like our dogs at our mom's house are like, for the most part, angels at home when no one's there. Every once in a while that you come home and you're like, what were you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that's the nature of having a dog. It's, you know, a little give and take. It's not all perfect, but hopefully I'm nervous for our bookshelf, honestly, a little bit. We'll have to make sure we keep it safe.
Yeah. Put a little gate around it.
Yeah. But otherwise, like, you know, on the main floor, like we could always like block off, like close the doors, block the upstairs. There's not like a ton that they would be able to get into.
Like just lay on the couch and chill.
So, yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think we could wrap up.
Okay. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you were watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe if you have not yet done so. You can comment, keep the conversation going. Otherwise, if you're listening on Spotify or any other listening platform, thanks for listening. Make sure to rate us on Apple Podcasts if you listen there, or I don't know if you can rate us on anywhere else, but we appreciate the feedback.
Otherwise, we will talk to you guys next Thursday. Bye.